Final ending of The Fool, other parts down below. Excuse me. I was puzzled, not understanding his implication. Then he discovered that your wife enjoys mingling at your company events. I should get an invite to see for myself, he said with a teasing grin. I was about to confront him when April approached, linking her arm with mine. Are we leaving now? She inquired, unaware of the brewing tension. Brent extended his hand. Good to see you, April. You've certainly made connections recently, he remarked. Indeed, it's helpful to have supportive colleagues, she replied cheerfully. It's challenging to advance without them, but I've managed just fine, she added with a laugh. Brent's face flushed. You have a great sense of humor, much like Bill here. The sales team has even given him a funny nickname, he said. April looked at me, confused, but seemed to sense my growing irritation. She kissed me affectionately and smiled. I'm starving, let's eat, she suggested. Brent, trying to be slick, handed me a $20 bill. Get your wife a drink on me. I've heard it makes her more sociable, he said with a sly smirk before walking away. I started to follow him, but April held me back. Can we just leave, please? She pleaded, looking distressed. Surveying the room, I noticed our colleagues deliberately avoiding our gaze. I gave April a reassuring kiss and wrapped my arm around her. Let's go, I agreed. You should consider leaving your job, she suggested as we drove to lunch. Today might turn out to be a positive change for you. I can't just walk away, that would mean they've won. But I won't tolerate their comments about you. Brent's going to have to answer for that. Where are we having lunch? I tried to shift the conversation. We've got reservations at Le Chic. We're meeting Dad and Barb. There are some things we need to talk about, she answered. That didn't sound too promising. She turned to face me. Bill, how can I make things right? I never expected your colleagues to learn about my mistake, she said, tears welling in her eyes. April, what did you expect? Our relationship started because you knew Brent from work. It's not just my workplace, your clients are aware too. It's just another hurdle for us, I replied, a bit sharply. Despite having moved past her past mistake, it still irked me occasionally. I didn't feel bad about showing my irritation. Every action has its consequences. I understood she wouldn't have done it if she was sober, and I believed I had forgiven her, but forgetting was harder. I took a deep breath. April, I love you and want to be with you always. Dwelling on this only reopens old wounds. If it gets too much, I'll contact our therapist again, okay? But what's this lunch about? I asked, sensing there was more to it as she glanced down at her hands. Your father-in-law is going to offer you a position on the board of directors, she blurted out. Please, hear him out before you decide. The company needs fresh ideas. With my health issues and stepping back, we need you to keep the momentum. Besides, you own 35% of the company shares. You can't just let them sit idle. I've been letting you use my proxy vote to shake things up with the old guard, I said with a slight smile. And it's working. We're close to making some significant updates. With your input, we can really modernize. I'm excited about the changes at work, she said enthusiastically. Watching her passion for work was uplifting, especially given her recent struggles with health and our concerns about starting a family. For that alone, I was willing to listen. We arrived at Le Chic, a new French restaurant in the heart of Midtown. The place had a welcoming atmosphere, and I hoped it would thrive. Detroit, often misunderstood, was actually on the upswing. There were growing areas of middle to high-income neighborhoods, and I was eager to witness the city's resurgence. To my surprise, I spotted Barb, April's stepmother, first. She had a way of persuading me, and it seemed like Steve and April were pulling out all stops by bringing her. Steve joined us just as we were about to order. Looks like April already told you, so what are your thoughts? Steve dove right in. Our relationship had improved since my return from Belize. We weren't close friends, but we could enjoy a good conversation. You think I, an its specialist, should make multi-million-dollar decisions just because I'm April's husband? I doubt the other board members would agree. Even if they did, why would they take me seriously? I'd be out of my depth and lacking the necessary respect, I responded. Let me address your concerns, Steve began. Your background is actually an asset. We've had a thorough external review of our business processes, and they identified technology as our main issue. The board is ready for change, but lacks tech expertise, which is where you come in. Your knowledge will be respected. And about nepotism, let's be realistic. Many board members got there through connections and learned on the job. When addressing non-technical issues, just be as direct and confident as you were when you first spoke to me. Your straightforward approach will be an advantage. Plus, April will let you vote her shares by proxy, giving you significant influence. He paused to sip his coffee. You'll also have April and me to discuss ideas and questions, he added. I mulled it over. There were fears and doubts, but nothing insurmountable. The more I thought about it, the more appealing it seemed. My current job was stagnant, and this was an opportunity to test my abilities at a higher level. This decision-making process was another reason I adored my wife. Before marrying her, I would have shied away from such challenges. Now, I was almost ready to dive in, ideas already forming in my mind. What kind of authority will I have in this role? I inquired. As much as you need, he replied. With April's shares under your proxy, you'll have significant control. Just be mindful of how you interact with the board members. You'll have the authority to hire and fire, but diplomacy is key. Let's hear your ideas. After an hour of discussing business plans and strategies, I felt charged up and ready to tackle the new role. As we prepared to leave, Barb hugged me and gave a piece of advice. Remember to be resilient, just like April when she started. Keep your priorities in check. It's important to not lose sight of what truly matters. Family, she advised. As she turned, Steve got down on one knee, holding an open ring box. Barbara Lewis, will you marry me? He asked, a hint of nervousness in his voice. Barb, a strong and confident woman, let out an unexpected squeal of delight, which everyone interpreted as a yes. On the way back, my mind was racing with ideas for the company. I was so absorbed in my thoughts that I barely noticed April until she got my attention. She playfully suggested we make a spontaneous stop. Let's stop at a hotel. I want to celebrate with you, she said, a playful tone in her voice. I played along with her light-hearted mood. The journey to success might be long and challenging, but I think you've got what it takes, I responded with a grin. I'm ready to dive in and get my hands dirty, she replied, matching my playful tone. We stopped at a hotel and spent some private time together, enjoying each other's company. Afterwards, April snuggled close to me, looking deeply content yet emotional. I need to tell you something important, and I want you to hear me out, she began, taking a deep breath. In our relationship, you've always been the more considerate and understanding one, she initiated. I tried to interject, but she gently silenced me. Please, let me finish. You've shown me what it means to be caring and supportive. I want you to know that from now on, and especially after my surgery and treatment, I am committed to being the best partner and, hopefully one day, the best mother to our future children. We've taken steps to preserve our chance of having a family. Also, I implore you not to let the company consume your life like it did mine. If we maintain our bond, regardless of the company's fate, I'll consider us successful. I responded with a heartfelt kiss and held her close. We're going to get through this together. You'll overcome this challenge, and we'll find a way to start our family. I can see you balancing being an incredible mom and a professional brilliantly, while I try to keep up. I imagine us in a spacious home with a big yard for our kids, and growing old together, still deeply in love, I reassured her. Her smile broadened. That sounds perfect. Let's make that our goal. I was unexpectedly let go from my job. The reason given was my potential search for other opportunities, which apparently made me a risk around confidential information. Initially, I was upset, but then I realized this gave me a chance to spend a week with my wife and Beth before her surgery. Honestly, we hadn't relied on my income since we got married. I enjoyed my work and valued my independence, but this unexpected time off provided a unique opportunity. We decided to explore Michigan together. We marveled at the butterfly exhibit at Frederick Major Gardens in Grand Rapids and visited the Sleeping Bear Dunes on our way to Mackinac Island. It was a week dedicated to simply being together. There was a subtle yet noticeable tension between us, reminiscent of the early stages of dating when you're eager to deepen the relationship but cautious not to rush. Their light summer dresses and the closeness we shared only amplified this feeling. Unlike my usual self, I chose to relax and savor these moments. We returned home the day before April's surgery. Coming down the stairs, I found them in an emotional embrace, tears streaming down their faces. What's going on? I asked with concern. Please sit down, Bill, Beth said firmly. We need to talk. April settled next to me on one knee, while Beth took a seat on my other. Bill, regardless of what happens, Beth wants to be the surrogate for our children. We can use my eggs, and Beth can carry them. If I make it through, we'll figure out the details together. We both want Beth to be a part of our family. If things don't go well, I hope you'll see the value in what Beth can offer as a partner and a parent. If I'm here, we need to discuss how we'll all fit together. For now, you two should talk. I need some rest. She kissed my forehead and headed upstairs. Beth looked at me, a hint of a smile on her face. Well, this is a bit strange, isn't it? She said, laughing nervously. I returned the smile. Let's not worry about it. How about we grab some sodas and sit outside? I suggested. We opened our drinks and sat quietly for a while before starting our conversation. Bill, I care deeply about you and April. I've always felt a strong connection to both of you. April has shared our past with you. She's changed a lot since being with you, becoming more considerate. You were the first person who really stood up to her, especially after what happened. I've been thinking about us trying something non-traditional in our relationship. I really want to be the surrogate for you both. I'm committed to this idea, she shared. I took a moment to process her words. Realizing my feelings for Beth were stronger than I had acknowledged was surprising. My relationship with April was intense and passionate, but with Beth, it felt stable and unwavering. I cared for them both. It was unusual, but it seemed like we had possibilities to explore. I care for you too, Beth. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I can't imagine you not being a part of our lives. Right now, our priority is April's health. After that, we can sit down and figure things out, I responded. Beth stood up and embraced me warmly. I returned the gesture, feeling a sense of unity and hope. Let's make sure we're all in agreement before anything more, okay? I need your support in this, I said gently, with a hint of a smile. We headed upstairs to join April in bed. Curling up beside her, we fell asleep entwined. Waking up together, April's face lit up with a joyful smile. I cherish you both, she said warmly, kissing me deeply and giving Beth a tender kiss on the cheek. This journey was shaping up to be quite the experience. The surgery was successful, thankfully. Hysterectomies are common, but it was still nerve-wracking since it was April's first major surgery. The diagnosis was tough, malignant growths on her uterus, some having spread to her lymph nodes. Thankfully, they were small enough to be managed with chemotherapy. April recovered for a week from the surgery before starting her chemo treatments. Beth's presence during this time was a godsend, especially since I was beginning my new role at Livingstone. The board there was less than thrilled about my arrival. I knew I had to adopt a different approach than I had at my previous job. Remembering Steve's advice to be forthright as I had been before my trip to Belize, I decided to follow it. Walking into the office on my first day, I was nervous but felt a newfound confidence. This wasn't going to be easy, but I was ready to take it on. The timing of my introduction to the board coincided with April starting her chemotherapy, which helped me focus. My concerns for my wife kept me from overthinking the board meeting. After all, April and Beth were my priorities, and I was prepared to face any outcome at the company. I took a deep breath and faced the 12 board members, all of whom were white men over 50, seated around the conference table. Gentlemen, let's be direct. I'm Bill Thompson, your new CEO. I earned this role through my family connections, being Steve's son-in-law and April's husband. However, my expertise in computer technology and business management is also highly relevant. An independent review has confirmed a suspicion I've had for years: Livingstone Steel risks becoming obsolete. We've been stagnant, relying on outdated methods. It's time for a major overhaul, while maintaining our commitment to quality and service. I'm asking each of you to support these changes. I understand there might be some dissatisfaction with the recent developments, but our personal feelings are secondary. Our focus must be on collaboration. If anyone feels unable to work with this new direction, please speak up now, as we have arranged a substantial retirement package. I paused, waiting for their reaction. One of the senior board members cleared his throat and stood up. I've dedicated 40 years to Livingstone Steel, starting as a clerk and working my way up to this board after completing my college education. One board member began. To be honest, I wasn't thrilled about having no say in Steve's daughter becoming our next CEO, despite her qualifications and background. As for you, all you seem to have is a degree in technology from an average institution and quite an assertive attitude. I'm not interested in training someone new on how our company operates. Our profits have been consistent for a decade. I'll be accepting the retirement package. Steve, I've always respected you, but I think this decision is a mistake, and I hope you realize it before it's too late for the company. That was Jack Winters, our head of process management, voicing his decision. In a way, his departure was opportune, considering the technological changes I planned to introduce, which would have directly impacted his department. I already had a replacement in mind. I regarded him with sincere respect. Jack, I want to express my gratitude for your years of service to Livingstone. I fully respect your choice and the professionalism with which you've presented it. Please submit your resignation by the end of today, and I'll arrange a retirement celebration for you on Friday. I think Jack expected me to falter or try to persuade him to stay and adopt my perspective. That wasn't going to happen. It was time for April and me to make our mark on the company and modernize it. Steve, to his credit, remained silent, allowing me to handle the situation. After addressing Jack's exit, I scanned the room for any other dissenters. Seeing none, I moved forward to share my vision for the company. 6 months into the job, we were set to launch our new inventory management system. The previous system was quite cumbersome. An order would come in, get reviewed at our main office, then pass to purchasing, which would then release it to the warehouse for process, shipment, and finally, delivery scheduling. Our revamped system streamlined this by generating multiple reports as soon as an order was placed, enabling simultaneous reviews. This change drastically reduced our response time from 3 weeks to just 4 or 5 days, and also improved accuracy by minimizing the chances of errors. This project was a significant undertaking for me, and I knew that its success or failure would greatly impact my standing with the board. I was fortunate to have the backing of my new vice president of technology. Introducing my former boss to the board was quite the experience. The board, largely traditional in their views, found it challenging enough to accept a female VP, let alone one who was openly lesbian. Jamie was the epitome of professionalism. She was open about her personal life in a way any heterosexual person would be, but never let it overshadow her work. She was strict about meeting deadlines and enforcing adoption policies. With her on board, along with Ralph and Bruce, whom I had recruited from my previous job, we really had a top-notch team. The system installation went smoothly without any significant issues. After a month of the new system running smoothly, I felt confident in calling it a successful implementation. My personal life was also progressing positively, albeit with its complexities. April successfully completed a round of chemotherapy and was declared cancer-free. After a few months, we decided to proceed with a fertility treatment using her eggs, and Beth became pregnant with twins. In our relationship, April, Beth, and I reached a new level of intimacy. The day Beth came back from her checkup, confirming the healthy progress of the twins, emotions were high. We were celebrating the joyous news, but also acknowledging the sadness of an embryo that didn't develop. The atmosphere was tense, filled with unspoken feelings and anticipation. In a moment of raw emotion, Beth expressed her need for us to fully embrace our unique relationship, her voice trembling with emotion. I looked to April, seeking her thoughts. It was clear we were all on the same page, ready to move forward together in our relationship. This marked a significant and consensual step in our journey as a trio, deepening our bond and commitment to each other. April took Beth's hand, leading her towards our bedroom, and I followed, holding her other hand. The experience that night was profound and deeply personal for all of us, an expression of love that words can't fully capture. However, life with two strong, intelligent women wasn't as straightforward as one might think. After an initial period of bliss, reality set in. Tensions arose, leading to arguments and emotional moments from both April and Beth. Misunderstandings and jealousies surfaced, complicating our dynamic. It reached a point where I realized they were competing for dominance, which wasn't healthy for any of us. After a particularly strained incident involving a misunderstanding about personal boundaries and preferences, I had enough. Dressed in my robe, I called them both to the living room, raising my voice for the first time in a long while. They appeared, both in robes, looking upset with me and each other. "I can't stand this anymore," I said firmly. "I love you both, and I know you care for each other, but this isn't the way we should be acting. We need to resolve these issues, or we're all going to be miserable. Whatever it is, figure it out." Now, surprisingly, my outburst had a unifying effect, at least in the short term. They both agreed on one thing, that I was being unreasonable. But seeing them on the same page, even if it was against me, was a relief. If my role as the bad guy helped them stop fighting, then it was a price I was willing to pay for the sake of our relationship. After they finished expressing their frustrations and concerns, the atmosphere felt lighter, like we had made some progress. Wanting to give them a chance to reconnect, I fetched my American Express black card and offered it to them. "I think you both need a break. Why not take a trip to Paris, London, or any romantic place you fancy? Have a baby moon, enjoy fine dining, indulge in some shopping, and just spend quality time together. Hopefully, you'll return feeling renewed and we can all get back on track," I suggested softly. Their initial reaction was one of surprise, exchanging glances before both giving me a warm kiss. I could hear their laughter as they retreated to the den to plan their vacation. Women can be enigmatic, I thought to myself. The vacation turned out to be exactly what they needed. They sent me playful and humorous photos from various landmarks in Venice and Rome, including some amusing shots with sculptures. They returned full of love for each other and me, and things felt right again for a long time. Our twins, Eric James Thompson and Arthur Stephen Thompson, were born healthy and strong. I had given Beth a ring identical to April's, and she had changed her last name to Thompson. Seeing Beth holding our sons just after their birth was a moment of profound beauty. April, too, had a moment of emotion, but holding our children seemed to wash away any concerns. At that moment, my love for my wives and children knew no bounds. It was more a case of steady progress with smaller achievements. One of my successful moves was hiring veterans, which proved to be a great decision. My effort to employ ex-convicts, however, didn't go as smoothly. While those who did join us became some of our most dedicated and hardworking employees, they were unfortunately a minority. I also made the tough decision to outsource our shipping department to Allied Logistics for a fixed fee, resulting in the loss of over 50 jobs. This was a difficult choice, but the financial savings were significant. I offered a generous retirement package to those with over 25 years of service and provided an opportunity for the others to buy our trucks at cost, enabling them to start as independent operators if they chose. Despite these efforts, I was still seen as the unsympathetic new face of the company, a perception I found hard to shake. I mostly let my team handle their areas, stepping in when necessary, especially if it meant taking the heat. It seemed better to let any dissatisfaction focus on one person. However, there was one account I took a special interest in, Corrugated Solutions, run by Jackson Stone. His son, Xavier, who had a personal history with my wife, was set to take over. When their contract came up for renewal, it led to a rather interesting meeting. "Jackson, after the initial greetings, I have to be honest. I'm not particularly inclined to continue our business relationship," I began. "You've enjoyed preferential pricing for the last 2 decades, but we earn 30% less profit from your account compared to others. Given the current demand for steel, we stand to gain more by selling elsewhere." Jackson seemed taken aback by my statement. Meanwhile, his son Xavier, who had a past with April, couldn't hide his smirk. "Corrugated has been loyal to this company long before Steve was in charge. We've proven our commitment time and again. How can you consider ending our relationship now?" Jackson asked, his face a mix of hurt and concern. Jackson, your son acted inappropriately with my wife when she was vulnerable. If you were in my position, would you feel comfortable continuing a business relationship with someone who behaves that way? To me, it reflects on a person's character, and I prefer not to associate with someone who lacks integrity, both personally and professionally. Xavier, seeing an opportunity to assert himself, chimed in with a smug look. So, you're willing to jeopardize 165 jobs over a personal matter? That seems like an overreaction. Maybe there's a reason your wife was looking elsewhere, he taunted. The expression on Jackson's face was a mix of shock and embarrassment. I kept my composure and laid out my terms firmly. Jackson, the preferential treatment ends now. However, in recognition of your past loyalty, I'm willing to offer a 5% discount for returning customers, but only if Xavier has no involvement in your company. I don't want him anywhere near our business dealings. This is your decision to make before you leave today. Jackson sighed deeply, looking at his son with a mixture of disappointment and resignation. He then reached across the table, extending his hand in agreement. We have a deal. It seems my son still has some lessons to learn about consequences. I had hoped his past experiences would have taught him to be more cautious with his words. Xavier appeared visibly shocked, likely not expecting his father's decision. Son, a key part of business is knowing which battles to pick. You chose the wrong one this time. Learn from it. You might want to start improving your resume, especially with your new financial commitments, Jackson advised Xavier, who then silently left the table. Jackson watched him go, his face etched with sadness and regret. He turned to me. I've heard about your twin boys. Congratulations. Hopefully, you'll be more successful in teaching them that actions have consequences than I was with mine. I'm off to have a drink by myself. Have a good evening, he said, his voice heavy with reflection. I had thought I would feel more triumphant in this situation, but instead, I was introspective. It made me wonder about the changes in myself, from the shy guy who struggled to speak up, to who I was now. Was I a better person? All I could do was keep trying to be. Fatherhood was something I cherished deeply. I could spend hours just watching my boys in their crib. It took a couple of weeks before I attempted my first diaper change. By then, April and Beth were experts, and they found my clumsy efforts amusing. April, in particular, was a natural. She had undergone hormone therapy to breastfeed alongside Beth. I found it incredibly heartwarming to see them nursing our sons. 6 weeks after giving birth, Beth was ready to resume intimate activities. I came home one day to find both of them in matching lingerie, a clear indication of their intentions. Beth, though she still had some signs of recent motherhood on her body, was as beautiful as ever. The changes in her appearance were a testament to the life she had brought into the world, making her even more attractive to me. As they playfully engaged with me, Beth finally broke the silence with a significant question. Bill, I love being a mom. Eric and Arthur are amazing, and I've always dreamed of a big family. I think it would be wonderful if they had another sibling close in age. Can we think about having another baby? I took a moment, pretending to ponder her request, then answered with a smile. When considering expanding our family, we need to ensure April feels included and cherished, I said with a light-hearted tone, suggesting more affectionate attention towards her. The mood shifted playfully as both April and Beth energetically engaged with me. In retrospect, that night might have been the moment Beth became pregnant again. 9 months later, we welcomed Rachel May and Sarah Louise Thompson into our lives, not knowing that a challenging period lay ahead. For the next year, life was blissful. Beth and April formed an incredible parenting team, and my career was going well. I was deeply in love with both women, and we were raising wonderful children together. Then, our happiness was abruptly disrupted. Cancer. April had been diligent with her checkups, always receiving a clean bill of health, which made it all the more shocking when I discovered a lump in her breast during an intimate moment. Stopping immediately, I examined the area more closely. There was no mistaking the small, hard mass. April, sensing the seriousness, rushed to the bathroom to check herself, with Beth and me close behind. The cancer was aggressive and fast-moving. It quickly spread to her lymph nodes and then to her liver. Despite our best efforts, it eventually affected her entire body, and we were told there was nothing more that could be done. We decided to bring her home, to spend her remaining time in a familiar and loving environment. Watching someone you deeply love gradually fade away is an indescribably heart-wrenching experience. April, during her moments of strength, always wanted to be with the kids. We gently explained to them that Mama April was unwell and needed a lot of rest. The children seemed to understand in their own way, particularly the boys, who were incredibly well behaved around her. They made drawings for her, and each one found a place in her room, which she insisted be kept bright and welcoming to avoid a somber atmosphere. Eventually, April became too weak to stay in our shared bed and had to be moved to a hospital bed. That was a sobering moment for us all, truly realizing the gravity of the situation. With constant nursing care and heavy pain medication, April often struggled to stay awake. On April 1st, Beth and I brought the kids to see her. She was lucid enough to share hugs and kisses with the boys and held each of our daughters, whispering words to them. After asking our nanny to take the kids away, Eric sensed something was amiss and was hesitant to leave. Arthur lingered in the doorway, but we promised they could see her again later. April, with a faint smile, spoke to us. It's time. I love you both so much. I'm grateful for our friendship and love. I tried to be a better person, and I think I managed. Please make sure the kids remember me. Being their mom was the best part of my life, second only to the love we shared. I don't know what happens next, but if I can, I'll be watching over you. Put on a good show for me every now and then. Her attempt to chuckle turned into a painful cough. I later learned she had stopped taking her pain medication to be more present with us. Overwhelmed with emotion, all I could manage was a sob. You both need to live long, fulfilling lives. Our kids will be amazing. Remember the good times, and know that despite my mistakes, my love for you was boundless, she continued, her energy fading. Beth and I sat by her side, tears flowing freely as we expressed our love. I can't recall our exact words, but the depth of our feelings was palpable. April smiled, looking as radiant as ever, and her smile remained even as she closed her eyes for the last time. Moments later, she peacefully passed away. Fast forward to the present. The funeral is over, the casket lowered, and the well-wishers have departed. I stand, feeling a profound sense of loss and sadness, gazing out the window across the field that separates our house from the main ranch. Our home, built on the edge of the property to accommodate our growing family, now feels different. Feeling Beth's arms encircle me, her head resting against my back, her grief tangible, I turn to embrace her. We share our sorrow, united in our love for April. After a moment of quiet understanding, Beth silently guides me to our bedroom. In our intimacy, we feel a connection to April, as if she's with us in spirit, assuring us that we'll be all right. Epilogue. Now, at 82, life's simple tasks present challenges. My arthritis makes fastening jeans difficult, so I opt for sweats. I manage to dress myself with some effort, sparing Nurse Ratch some tasks. I value my independence, grateful I can still take care of my personal hygiene. Overall, I'm doing quite well for my age. My nurse is wonderful, but I sometimes feel guilty for taking up her time. If it weren't for my deep respect for my daughter-in-law, I might have insisted on less assistance. Gail, my nurse, has a way of bringing out my softer side, often leading me to acquiesce to her suggestions. We've compromised on part-time care, balanced by a health monitoring necklace, allowing me to return to my home. These days, I enjoy watching the sunrise from my patio, coffee in hand. Sometimes, I swear I can hear laughter from inside the house, and I like to imagine it's April and Beth, still sharing joy together. I often find myself looking at a photo of the three of us taken at Mackinac Island, just before April's surgery. Reflecting on the years gone by has become a daily ritual, a journey through a lifetime of memories. Following April's passing, I inherited the majority ownership of Livingstone Steel. Beth convinced me not to sell it, highlighting the opportunity to leave a legacy for our children. I told Eric and Arthur they could take over the business if they chose, but I also emphasized they were free to pursue their own paths. Both boys viewed the company as a family legacy, and took their roles seriously, starting their involvement in high school. They initially resisted the idea of working through every level of the company as hourly employees, but with Grandpa Steve's support, they came around to it. Eric met Gail in college, and they connected instantly, marrying shortly after his graduation. Despite the superficial differences in their appearances, their bond was strong. They met in a rather unusual way. Eric was hit by a foul ball Gail hit during softball practice while he was modeling for a college calendar. At their 15-year anniversary, Gail humorously shared her approach to a happy family life, which was a bit too candid for my comfort. Arthur, on the other hand, had a different path. He was quite the ladies' man but never settled down, focusing instead on his semi-professional tennis career and managing the financial aspects of Livingstone. His reluctance to settle down was surprising, especially given his protective nature towards our daughter, Sarah. Sarah was the introvert of the family, with a passion for writing rather than business. Encouraging her to follow her dreams, she became a successful romance novelist under a pen name. Her reserved nature sometimes made her a target for bullying, but the family always rallied around her, particularly Arthur. His protective instincts were evident, especially in a notable incident where he took rather drastic measures against a date who had mistreated Sarah. There's been speculation about the nature of Arthur and Sarah's relationship, but it's their private matter. As long as they are happy and not causing harm, it's not my place to interfere or judge. Rachel was our family's dynamo, making a big impact in high school. She was not only a cheerleader but also class president, valedictorian, and president of the Honor Society. She was a natural leader in every endeavor she pursued. This continued into her college years, and she even took a brief hiatus for modeling, thanks to Eric's connections. Eventually, she found her calling as a physical therapist, establishing a successful practice that caters to athletes and veterans. She fell in love with a veteran who lost his foot in Iraq, and together they participate in marathons. Then there's Ellie Mae. 5 years after April's passing, we were notified that the remaining frozen eggs we had were nearing expiration. After careful consideration, Beth and I decided to try for another child. One of the fertilized eggs resulted in a viable pregnancy, and that's how Ellie Mae came into our lives. From the start, Ellie had a special place in my heart, much to the amusement of the rest of the family. Diagnosed with mild autism, she was a mix of stubbornness and sensitivity, reacting strongly to minor things, yet displaying a fierce loyalty to our family. For example, during a company barbecue, when one of the employees' grandsons, known for being a bully, pushed Sarah, Ellie didn't hesitate to defend her. She fearlessly tackled the boy, showing her protective nature even at a young age. While it was a concern at the time, we later found humor in the story of her standing up to a much older boy. With counseling, Ellie learned to manage her reactions better. As a reward for her progress, I got her a dirt bike, and she was instantly hooked. She competed in local races, quickly becoming a champion on the track from ages 8 to 16. Beth handled the older kids' soccer practices and music lesson, while I accompanied Ellie to her dirt bike races. She truly shone in the sport, earning the title of Queen of the Track in our local circuit. We always made sure our children knew about April. When Ellie learned she was conceived using April's egg, she initially struggled to understand but eventually embraced it. She wanted to get a tattoo in April's memory at 14, but after a long discussion, we agreed she would wait until she was 18, and we would get tattoos together. This became a family event, with all of us getting a Mama April tattoo in her honor. Inspired by this experience, Ellie eventually opened her own tattoo parlor and bike shop and even took over a local biker bar. The bar, along with her shops, follows a strict no-colors policy, serving as neutral grounds for peaceful resolutions among bikers. Steve and Barb, April's parents, embarked on an RV tour across the U.S. right after Beth and I got married. Tragically, 5 years into their journey, they were killed in a massive pileup in Tennessee. I often think about how much they would have loved to spend more time with their grandchildren. As for Beth and me, we married a year after April's passing. Beth seamlessly stepped into the role of the family matriarch and became an incredible partner. We missed April every day but found happiness and contentment in our lives together. We never considered adding anyone else to our relationship. The unique connection we had only worked with the three of us. Sadly, Beth passed away from a heart attack 10 years ago. Thanks to modern medicine, Beth and I maintained a vibrant and loving relationship well into our 70s. She was truly beautiful, and I find myself missing her every day. After Steve and Barb's passing, we moved into the main house. When Beth passed away, I discussed the future of the house with Eric and Gail. They set up an apartment for me, but with the grandkids growing up and great-grandkids on the horizon, I chose to move back into my old house. That decision led to the arrangement of having a nurse and wearing the health monitoring necklace. It was also a way for me to step back, as the company was thriving under Eric and Arthur's leadership. Sarah was expanding her writing career, Rachel continued to excel as a best-selling author, and Ellie, having ended a relationship, was exploring a new one with the niece of an old friend, Trina. I heard through Ellie that Trina, unfortunately, was battling severe dementia, which saddened me. These days, I often doze off and find myself lost in a dream where Beth and April are waiting for me, ready to embark on a journey to explore the world. Waking up from these dreams always brings a sense of sadness. Sometimes, I hear what sounds like giggling. In my dreams, I see Beth and April as beautiful as ever, inviting me to join them on a grand adventure. Even though I know it's a dream, I can't help but feel drawn to them. As I approach, the aches and pains of age seem to vanish. "Come on, Bill," April says with a welcoming smile. "Let's get ready to see the world." Beth adds, "We have a long journey ahead, but we're going to take it together." Embraced by this comforting vision, I willingly follow, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace and togetherness. My comment: are you rooting for OP after all of this? Was this a happy ending in your eyes? I believe so. Comment down below, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.